Pete Alonso is about to re-sign with the New York Mets. Now you may say, well, are you getting this from a source? I'm not getting this from a source, all right? I'm getting this from my brain, and let me walk you through why. Last night, the New York Rangers were embarrassing themselves. I don't know if you saw this, but they played like crap, and they lost to the Buffalo Sabres. Guess who was in the building watching the New York Rangers
By the way,
play?
was Pete Alonso?
Did you see it?
I did not. The hockey game?
Yeah.
I saw the box score like I always do.
I don't know if you saw this. They got embarrassed. Did you see it?
I did
No.
not. I saw the
Okay.
box score, and I saw that they got their
So
butt kicked.
take a lap.
Let me take one lap. Did they embarrass themselves?
No, last time was not an embarrassment. They had a gruesome injury that.
Yeah, Capo Caco
Yes.
may be out for the season.
Thank you. That's our hockey stat. There you
Okay.
go. Carry on.
There you go. He got offended because I say the truth. They got their butts kicked. Pete Alonso's in the building. He's wearing a T-shirt that says New York or nowhere.
Okay.
The same shirt that Aaron Judge would walk around in.
Yes.
Okay? But here's the real reason why this is giving me confidence this deal is done. Because you may be saying, well, what does it mean that he's at a Ranger game? Here's what it means. Do you know what happened on January 23rd, 2023?
Aaron Judge went to a Rangers game?
Jeff McNeil went to a Rangers game. And Jeff McNeil was sitting next to the great John Franco. And everyone said, what's Jeff McNeil doing? And it was like a crazy rumor. Oh, maybe he's negotiating a contract, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even take it seriously. 3 days later, look it up, January 26th, 2023. What was the breaking news around the New York Mets? Jeff McNeil signs a long-term contract to stay in Flushing.
So as they go down the stretch of getting a contract done, they're like, why don't you go to a Rangers game?
Yes.
That's the modus operandi.
Yes, that's what happened. So Pete Alonso's at a Ranger game. He's wearing a shirt that says New York or nowhere, very popular shirt, but one worn by Aaron Judge, who Pete in a weird way is emulating, though hopefully they get the contract done before free agency. He's at the same venue, sitting in the same seats that his best friend, Jeff McNeil, was at in January of last year before he signed his extension. So, ladies and gentlemen, on December 2nd, 2023, right as Yamamoto signs with the Red Sox, I'm just kidding, we will get the breaking news that Pete Alonso's re-signed with the Mets, and I get to cut my hair. Pete Alonso's about to re-sign with the New York Mets. Now, you may say, well, are you getting this from a source? I'm not getting this from a source, all right? I'm getting this from my brain, and let me walk you through why. Last night, the New York Rangers were embarrassing themselves. I don't know if you saw this, but they played like crap, and they lost to the Buffalo Sabres. Guess who was in the building watching the New York Rangers
By the way,
play?
Was Pete Alonso?
Did you see it?
I did not. The hockey game?
Yeah.
I saw the box score like I always do.
I don't know if you saw this. They got embarrassed. Did you see it?
I did
No.
not. I saw the
Okay.
box score, and I saw that they got their
So
butt kicked.
take a lap.
Let me take one lap. Did they embarrass themselves?
No, last time was not an embarrassment. They had a gruesome injury that.
Yeah, Capo Caco
Yes.
may be out for the season.
Thank you. That's our hockey stat. There you
Okay.
go. Carry on.
There you go. He got offended because I say the truth. They got their butts kicked. Pete Alonso's in the building. He's wearing a T-shirt that says New York or nowhere.
Okay.
The same shirt that Aaron Judge would walk around in.
Yes.
Okay? But here's the real reason why this is giving me confidence this deal is done. Because you may be saying, well, what does it mean that he's at a Ranger game? Here's what it means. Do you know what happened on January 23rd, 2023?
Aaron Judge went to a Rangers game?
Jeff McNeil went to a Rangers game. And Jeff McNeil was sitting next to the great John Franco. And everyone said, what's Jeff McNeil doing? And it was like a crazy rumor. Oh, maybe he's negotiating a contract, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even take it seriously. 3 days later, look it up, January 26th, 2023. What was the breaking news around the New York Mets? Jeff McNeil signs a long-term contract to stay in Flushing.
So as they go down the stretch of getting a contract done, they're like, why don't you go to a Rangers game?
Yes.
That's the modus operandi.
Yes, that's what happened. So Pete Alonso's at a Ranger game. He's wearing a shirt that says New York or nowhere, very popular shirt, but one worn by Aaron Judge, who Pete in a weird way is emulating, though hopefully they get the contract done before free agency. He's at the same venue, sitting in the same seats that his best friend, Jeff McNeil, was at in January of last year before he signed his extension. So, ladies and gentlemen, on December 2nd, 2023, right as Yamamoto signs with the Red Sox, I'm just kidding, we will get the breaking news that Pete Alonso's re-signed with the Mets, and I get to cut my hair because I have made a proclamation. I will not cut my hair until Pete Alonso gets an
Your
extension.
hair is actually growing very slow, though.
Yeah, I think he's getting slight trims to keep it in place.
Yeah, something's like not quite computing. Because I remember when you got your haircut, I remember Kayla coming and saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, you got your ears lowered. Look good."
Yeah.
It feel like it hasn't grown at all. That was like 3 months ago.
I want to make something clear now. So I have proclaimed, if you didn't hear, just my own personal thing, not a big deal, personal thing, that I won't cut my hair until Pete resigns. And if that means looking like Carrot Top, it means looking like Carrot Top. If it means having a ponytail, it means having a ponytail. It's the least I can do.
Would you even put it in a ponytail? Or
Maybe. I consider it. I mean, all options are on the table. At that point, I'll be so pissed off Pete doesn't have his extension. God knows what I'm going to do. So out of solidarity with the polar bear, my guy, you see his jersey hanging up on the wall?
I do.
There's no other jersey hanging on the wall at this radio station besides number 20 Pete Alonso.
Mine's right underneath it.
Oh, crap. That's right.
The picture.
That's a picture of Tiki. We'll put your picture of your uniform up there, too, if you want.
Nice.
So out of solidarity with Pete, I am not touching my hair. I'm not cutting it until he gets an extension. You're telling me you're accusing me of lying
No.
and secretly cutting my hair?
No, I'm just saying your hair just grows extraordinarily slow.
Well, and Tiki,
my hair doesn't grow at all, so it's all good.
this segment is also proof that Evan likes to fit a narrative here, so he
What?
might be trimming the hair if he wants. You know, one of the perks, other than the fact that I'm the most handsome man on the show, of me coming here is that, like, I actually pay attention to hockey and watch hockey, so it's really useful right now. We really get to it a lot. I will tell you this, having watched almost every Ranger game this year, this ain't the first trip Pete Alonso's taken to the Garden to watch the New York Rangers this
thank
year
you.
or next year. And by the way, you big McNeil sign last year, that wasn't the only game McNeil poked his head in for. So I know this made the rounds on Mets Twitter last night. Newsflash. It wasn't his first trip to the Garden this year up on the big screen.
Hold on a second. So let me get this straight now. Sean is trying to pop my balloon by saying Pete goes to a lot of Ranger games.
I don't think he's trying to pop your balloon.
as
He's
if-
just trying to get the facts right.
Okay, he goes to a lot of Ranger games. I never said he didn't. All I said was, and it's fact-based, when Jeff McNeil was pictured at the game on January 23rd, 2023, he signed a contract 4 days later. You could look that up. That's the facts.
Okay, so why
I
didn't you bring this
say-
up the other times that he went? He hasn't signed a contract since.
Because...
First, you
of all,
weren't aware.
No, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. And you're telling me McNeil was at a lot of Ranger games. Okay, the time he got publicity was when he signed 3 days later. And here's the other caveat to this whole thing. Not caveat, you talking out of your own derriere. If he's going to Ranger games like all the time in the middle of November, that tells you everything you need to know about Pete Alonso's priorities. And that's, I want to be here. If he's in New York in November watching your overrated hockey team at the part of the season that means nothing, then that just shows me even more that the polar bear wants to be here forever. So you could take your Licata-driven narratives about trading him and he's a bad guy, and you can stick it. Because as far as I'm concerned, Sal got off that train. You're riding it solo. So ride your Alonso better be traded train right into the ground like your Rangers season is going.
When it comes to the polar bear, we're not in contract hibernation.
We are not in contract hibernation. Scott Boras and David Stearns were in a suite last night, putting the I's and the T's on that contract, getting it done. And Evan's going to cut his hair. What up?
You know what else happened at Madison Square Garden? I'm trying to get the year right here. I'll just tell you, it was a week before Robinson Cano signed with the Mariners in 14. He was at a Knick game.
That doesn't count. First of all, the Knick magic doesn't apply. It's only the Rangers. You know that.
Gotcha. Okay.
The Knicks don't get guys to sign extensions. No star wants to be with the Knicks. They don't have that magic the way the Rangers do.
This is just fan evidence. This is nothing empirical. There's nothing like
It's
scientific
hope.
here.
Oh, no, hold on.
This is hope evidence.
Hold on a second. To Sean and Tiki, I want to say it again, okay? Here's the evidence. Jeff McNeil was at a Ranger game on January 23rd, 2022.
With Pete Alonso?
Because he signed an extension 1 year before free agency. That's what the proof is.
Okay, but Jeff McNeil's contract, don't you think, was easy?
It was a little easier.
You know what? No, you know what?
A little easier.
I got it. How many days did McNeil sign after that one game you happen to catch him at?
I think it was 4 days later.
4 days later. Okay.
In January.
You thought this was worthy enough to bring up in hour number 2 on the show. If Pete Alonso isn't signed within the next 4 days, how about you have to grow out your beard, too?
I can't do my beard.
Why not?
Have you ever done it?
It's horrible.
If this really means something, then you'll put your facial hairs where your mouth is.
Okay. Couple of things. Is there a deadline when I can just shave? Like, do I have to do it forever in perpetuity?
How about this? Tiki, myself, and Tommy come to an agreement that we don't want to be around your smelly face anymore.
Done. I accept the deal.
All right, perfect.
As long as you give, because I trust Tiki and Loogie, not as much you, Sean, to eventually say, Evan, you got to cut that
You
beard.
look terrible.
Yeah.
You're making us uncomfortable.
Now, you might have to say something on air about us to officially allow you to be relieved of your duties before you shave your beard. A little hat tip to the movie Knocked Up. But I think that's the plan. So you have 4 days now for Alonso to sign this extension.
Okay, on a serious note, because obviously I'm being very speculative. I was open and honest about that at the beginning of this discussion. On a more serious note, we all know that the New York Mets, and the Yankees for that matter, are very seriously targeting Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He is the primary target for the New York Mets. The Yankees, it sounds like, have multiple targets, if you believe certain reporting. If the Mets don't sign Yamamoto, and right now I'll give you my honest opinion on my confidence on this, it's like 30 to 40%.
Why?
Because everybody's involved.
Got it.
And when you get basically every team in baseball involved in a
anything can
negotiation, anything can happen.
It's like the Padres overspending money they don't have, but they did it.
All you need is one.
Exactly. They did it.
And I think that the desperation teams have for starting pitching, here's a 25-year-old guy. Guys never become free agents as starting pitchers when they're 25. This is a unicorn moment. So I think you have a lot of teams involved. You have a lot of teams willing to spend big money on this guy. And while I think the Mets are involved in offering the big money, can I confidently say they're going to get him over 25 other teams that are negotiating? I can't. But I still put their number higher than everybody else. So for Sean, who's looking at me saying, well Steve Cohen, if I put the Met percentage at about 30%, I put the Yankee percentage at 17%. I put the Dodger percentage at 15%. It's still less than 50-50. But I would still put the field over the Mets in terms of acquiring Yamamoto. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But the hard thing to figure out, because we don't talk to their camp. Maybe they put out some, parameters that they're looking for, but we have no idea if it's going to be all things equal money-wise, which probably is not going to be the case. But let's just say it's relatively close. If he has a preference of being somewhere. We don't know. Right? Because the same thing happened with Ohtani.
Yes.
Ohtani had a preference for being on the West Coast. And so even though all we as New Yorkers wanted to talk about was, Ohtani. It's like, we never really had a chance. And so we don't know if that's the case yet with Yamamoto.
100%. That's why I wouldn't put it above 50%, because we don't know if A, he prefers the West Coast, B, he prefers the Mariners, D, he prefers Yoshida as a teammate with the Red Sox. Like, there are so many little factors to where I have some confidence I'm giving them a 30% shot. That's not as low as maybe it sounds. I'm just not like, it's done. The Mets are going to be the highest bidder. Shut up, we got them.
Yeah, they may be the highest bidder.
And they still may not get
him.
him.
That doesn't mean it's done.
Now, here's the caveat to all this. I think that Steve Cohen is a businessman, and I think he knows if the Mets don't get Yamamoto, they probably aren't going to have the sexy offseason a lot of Met fans want. That may not be the case with the Yankees, because I think they are going after Juan Soto. They are going after Cody Bellinger, as mistake-filled as that is.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Go ahead.
Why does the Met fan want a sexy offseason? Because you don't want to believe what Scherzer and Verlander said and or thought going out the door?
Well, I think you want to replace those guys, and you want to add to this rotation, and I think Yamamoto is clearly the number one option, and if they don't sign him, I think the drop-off is big, because I don't think they're going after Blake Snell. I think they may go after Jordan Montgomery, nice player, but there's a drop-off from the unknown of a 25-year-old future ace.
So it's not necessarily the sexiness of the whole offseason. It's just the sexiness of the big move.
Yeah, the plus side of the pitchers that they add will not be nearly as big if they don't get Yamamoto. Like, they're not connected to any of the big pitchers who may be traded, such as Shane Bieber. Like, their names are just not connected. Now, maybe that means David Stearns is doing a great job of not leaking anything out, or maybe they're not connected to making a trade for a guy who only has 1 year of control left, which I would be nervous about doing, of trading young pieces for a guy who's a free agent at the end of the year, hence why, personally, I wouldn't go after Soto. So here's where I'm getting at with all this. If they miss out on Yamamoto, which I think is more likely than not, and they're not making another big quote-unquote sexy move, the business decision that you make to appeal to a lot of Met fans is you get this done with Pete Alonso. even if it doesn't make your team better, because why would it make your team better? You're just re-signing a guy.
It's the same.
It's a business decision because there are a lot of Met fans, more Met fans than not, I do, who want Pete to be here for a long time. Like, I'll use Loogie as a minor example. Loogie wants the Mets to go out and make big moves.
Definitely.
If they don't, but their offer back to you as a fan is,
Give me
Pete's
Pete.
done.
Give me Pete for the rest
Yeah,
of
but
his career.
I'll see right through that as damage control, where it's like, all right, we're going to throw you the bone of
but
signing Pete.
But it's not damage control you're going to be upset about.
Right. Do you want Pete re-signed?
I do, but I would see through it if we don't get Ohtani, Yamamoto. I would see right through it that they are signing Pete to shut us up.
But you'd still be. You'd shut up though.
Yeah, I'd be giddy, but I'm smart enough to know deep down what it is.
I'm gonna clap for you.
Yeah.
But I'm clapping for you knowing that you really pissed me off.
Yeah, I'm a sheep and I'm an idiot, but yeah, I acknowledge that.
Yeah, and
that's all it would be.
By the way,
Yeah.
I think he would do that. Would do the same thing to me because even if they added, I'll name like low end starting pitchers, like they go Jack Flaherty, Luis Severino, and and I get it.
That's
You
an
heard-
awful rotation.
Okay, Loogie hates it, right?
Yeah,
High
it's bad.
upside, a very low basement, right? But if they gave us Pete and said, "Here's your guy, he's here forever," I think we'd be so excited about that news that as disappointed as we'd be about not improving the rotation as much as you had dreamt, I think overall there'd be some, all right, well, at least we got Pete done.
That puts a lot of pressure on Pete. It does.
And
Because
then,
he's the
and then
star
when
of the
does it
offseason.
start pissing you off in this once the season starts?
Yeah.
That you don't actually have the pitching.
April
that you want.
7th.
Yeah, when Jack Flaherty
Exactly
gets
right.
knocked out in the second inning and is getting booed off the field at Citi Field, there'll be criticisms. But I do think that if the Mets miss out on Yamamoto, and I assume they're going to miss out on Ohtani, but I guess you never know, that the PR move, but also the right move, is re-signing Pete Alonso. So I hope they sign Yamamoto for the reasons I laid out. I think that if you don't, first of all, the reason why I want Yamamoto, and it's the reason why even as a Yankee fan, even though you think the need is more offense, and it is, the reason why at the end of the day you have to want Yamamoto, I've come to this conclusion, is like I said earlier, he's a freaking unicorn. He's a 25-year-old who's coming off 3 consecutive MVPs in Japan. Like, there's a chance this guy's going to come over and be Garrett Cole.
Yeah. And
Like,
gave
that's
up
on the table.
2 home runs? Is that what it was? It was something ridiculously low number of home runs he gave up last
Oh, it was
year.
insane. A low, like a mid-1 ERA.
Yeah.
And yes, we all admit we haven't seen him pitch. Like, we all know that other than YouTube clips. But 25 and the success, like, I'll take that $200 million bet any day of the week because the reward on it can be so special because starting pitchers that are that good and that young don't become free agents. So I want him. Like, if you ask me right now, all right, Evan, I'm going to give you your choice. You just made a prediction. They don't sign Yamamoto, but they're going to lock up Pete to make you happy. And I think you guys know, and you certainly know, how much it means to me to keep Pete Alonso long term. I'll lose my mind if they decide to trade him or lose him as a free agent. That would damage me as a Met fan, and I think it would damage any real Met fan because we don't have this.
But
if you said to me right now, you get Yamamoto, and we're going to play a dangerous game with Pete, doesn't mean he's gone. We're going to play a dangerous game with Pete. Versus you lose Yamamoto, you go bottom of the barrel starting pitching options, but you keep Pete. I think I would take the gamble, get me Yamamoto, I'll worry about Pete next year. Because that's how important I think.
Okay, what happens if it's the worst case? Or actually it's the best and worst
Go ahead.
combined. They get Yamamoto and David Stearns is just, I'm sorry, can't work with.
And they trade Pete?
I can't work with his agent.
I'd be very upset.
We got to move him.
I'd be upset.
We got to get something for him before he leaves.
I'd be upset. I didn't put that in
But
the
you got
caveat.
Yamamoto.
I'd be upset. One thing's not necessarily related. I'm saying the reward on Yamamoto is enough where I'll risk the year of Pete playing out free agency. I wouldn't accept we're trading him to the Cubs. No, I don't want to trade Pete Alonso. I don't. Look, we haven't had a lot of guys who've been career Mets, a lot of guys who could potentially go into the Hall of Fame wearing a Met jersey. You know what that's going to mean to Giant fans if you get in? By the way, Tiki's a semifinalist.
Thank you.
Career Giant going into the Hall of Fame. Like, that matters. And so this isn't even a baseball argument, though I could make the baseball argument. I've already done it on the Rico Bronya. Download it wherever you download podcasts. But from a sentimental argument, I don't want this guy off the team. It matters. And last night, He's sitting there with his beautiful little
This all
jacket.
started just because he went to a Rangers game.
He's wearing a shirt that says New York or nowhere.
Are you feeling like angst because your hair is starting to grow a little bit longer?
I'm getting a lot of
It's
it.
getting
Brought
a
his
little-
Met luck to the Rangers,
It's
too.
getting a little messy for you.
Yes.
You're like, Pete, just sign already. I'm going to speak it into existence. Maybe David Stearns is listening.
Well, I'm just being honest. So here's the agreement. If Pete doesn't sign within 5 days, I have to start growing my beard out until you, Tiki Loogie, say enough's enough. You got to shave this
Yeah,
thing
we
off.
can't look at you anymore.
I mean, you're not Leonardo DiCaprio to begin with. So what's the beard going to do to make anything worse, bro?
It could make it. I could smell. is
You're
the problem.
ugly. You're going to smell
That's
because
what Sean said.
You
No.
could have like
Or-
beef and cheese.
you got to
in his
shower. You
beard.
got to, which we question
he
you do.
starts getting like a Tom Hanks Castaway thing, and he goes home, and his wife's like, hairy like an animal. Yeah. Loves you.
Isn't that Austin Powers?
Yeah, but I don't know.
Okay.
I think you mixed it up.
I know, right?
Yeah, I'll make that bet. So I will not cut my hair till Pete signs an extension. And if starting in 5 days, Pete doesn't extend after going to the Ranger game, I'll start growing my beard out. The hair's staying until he extends. That's done. I've already made that. I've talked to my wife about it. She understands. It's staying until he extends. So let's get this thing done, Scott and David. Go meet in a room and get this freaking thing done so this guy can be locked up long term.